More Americans voted for Hillary Clinton than for Donald Trump. More Americans voted for Democratic Senate candidates than for Republican Senate candidates. And Trump, he's really unpopular. He's the most unpopular new president we have had since we invented polling. He's so unpopular that his inauguration was greeted with the largest single day of protests ever in American history. This is a message. It is a message from the voters to him. If Trump were wise, he would govern with some humility. He needs to turn his minority into a majority. And he can do that. He could reach out to the majority of Americans who didn't vote for him, who don't approve of him, and show them in word and deed with compromised candidates and compromised legislation that they were wrong about him, that he's better than they thought, that he'll be a president for all Americans. That is not happening.
Another round of sweeping immigration changes expected from President Trump after he signed off on his signature promise to build a border wall.
President Trump will sign an executive order today related to a voter fraud investigation in the absence of information to suggest there was voter fraud.
In his every move since winning the election, Trump has shown he will govern as the most extreme version of himself. He made Breitbart Steve Bannon his chief strategist. He made retired General Michael Flynn his national security advisor. He said that Jeff Sessions will be his attorney general. He is still sending out tweets attacking John Lewis. He is getting in fights with the CIA. His inauguration address made no effort at all to reach out to the other side. Instead, he told his own supporters that he'd be here governing for them.
The forgotten men and women of our country will be forgotten no longer. You came by the tens of millions to become part of a historic movement, the likes of which the world has never seen before.
So far, there's been no effort at all to reach out to the other side or to play against type. There are no Democrats in his cabinet, as there were Republicans in Barack Obama's cabinet. Trump won't even admit he's unpopular. He just tweets the polls are rigged. So Trump is not going to represent the bulk of Americans. He's not even apparently going to try. But somebody needs to. So far, Democrats have slipped very comfortably into the position of minority party. They aren't demanding that Trump put forward compromised candidates for key posts. They aren't laying out a proactive agenda that would serve as their basis for negotiations with Trump and the Republicans. And they aren't, in their public messaging, emphasizing that most voters opposed Trump's agenda and that both Democrats and Republicans need to take that seriously. Democrats have confused being out of power with being in the minority. And that is a mistake. They are out of power. But it's not at all clear that what they represent is a minority. And somebody needs to represent the majority of voters who do not want to buy what Trump is selling. As grim as the situation is for Democrats, and it is grim, it's not going to take long for Republicans to recognize they're in some trouble too. They've lost the popular vote in 6 of the past 7 elections. That has never happened for a political party before. And remember, it's the out-of-power party that tends to gain seats in midterm elections. All of which leaves a real opening for Democrats. If Trump doesn't intend to represent the majority of the country, well, they can. Yeah, they don't hold much power in Congress, but they hold more than Republicans did in 2009, and Republicans are able to cause plenty of problems for Obama's agenda. They were able to make it very clear that Obama was governing on his own. Democrats should insist, in both appointments and legislation, that Trump govern with some consideration for the majority of Americans who voted for someone else. That is not mindless opposition. That is a reasonable cost for cooperation. Democrats should demand both that the media and Republicans take seriously the fact that Trump is governing without a majority or even a plurality of the American people behind him. And that carries with it a responsibility to govern modestly. There has been a lot of talk about normalizing Trump, but what's happening here is more fundamental. To ignore the election results and his poll numbers and act like the strongest possible version of Trump's agenda has been endorsed by most voters, it rehistoricizes Trump. It makes the election into something it wasn't, and this is important, it gives Trump license to govern in a way that he shouldn't. Elections decide who wins power. They don't decide how it should be wielded. If Trump governs in a way that respects the center of opinion in this country, a center Democrats appear to hold, Democrats should work with him. If he doesn't, then they should keep pointing that out and force him to govern alone.